Are you living life confidently, or is it possible that you may be actually sabotaging yourself without even knowing it? Now, of course, if you don't know you're sabotaging, then how would you be able to let me know that? So I'm going to actually just illustrate a couple things for you, and you can let me know in the comments if that resonates for you, and if in fact you are living confidently, or if you are living through some self-sabotage. All right, so let me just get started by explaining what I mean by sabotage. So a lot of times, especially when we were younger, we learned ways to cope with sort of feelings of distress, or what I would call a yuck factor. And when we're little, unless somebody taught us how to soothe and comfort that yuck factor inside, we come up with ways to cope with that, ways to kind of take that distressing feeling and channel it into something else. So there are different ways that we channel that distress. The idea here is, who does which one. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes we learn it from the people that are around us. Sometimes we just come up with it on our own. But the idea here is not, it doesn't really matter how we got it. It's really more recognizing if I'm doing that still today. So let me tell you, when we're little kids, if you learn to cope in the ways I'm going to explain right now, then good for you, because that's what you needed to do. And children are super smart and recognize when it's helpful for them to take on certain strategies, right? It keeps them well in the family, it keeps them well in society. It's a very adaptive process when we're kids. However, when we're older or adults, we don't need to be utilizing those strategies anymore, but they've become habits. So we want to be conscious of them, applaud them, thank them for showing up in our lives when we needed them, and then shifting into habits that will actually be helpful. But first, let's go to identifying them. So the idea here is to think about when you feel distressed, right? When you feel that yuck factor inside. It could be a pang in your sort of heart chest area. It could be like a sick feeling in your stomach. It could even be like just tightening up your shoulders and your whole body is just sort of tight, and you're feeling that sort of stress. So whatever that is, when you start noticing that sensation in your body, we don't like it. Our brain doesn't like it. It feels like a threat. So we try to, again, find a way to cope with it, right? I will teach you later the ideal way to deal with it, but right now we're going to find a way to cope with it. And the ways we cope with it are, I'm just going to move over to a visual here for you. The ways we cope with the distress typically are one, and that would be self-criticism. So what is wrong with me? Criticism. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel this? This is horrible. Why did I do that? Depends on the situation and as to what sort of led to that distress feeling, but we can really internalize it. I'm so stupid. Like, truly, what is wrong with me? And then we take on that distress and we channel it into our thoughts, and our thoughts are self-critical for some of us, right? Another one is blame, right? So what's wrong with them? How could they do that? Why don't they understand? Don't they get it? Like, you're boggled by their response or their behaviors, and you should take that distress feeling that you've experienced from the situation and you're blaming them. So another very common one is substance use or addictive sorts of things. Substances, shopping, a little more sort of obsessive behaviors can come up to try to sort of channel that yuck factor into something else, right? So with substances, I might sort of dull them with alcohol, or at least shut that part of my mind down and just engage in other things because the substances are allowing me to do that. Possibly like, I'm just going to go shop and I'm just going to, buy a bunch of things, and that's going to give me a dopamine hit, right? Because I'm going to feel so good that I'm buying all these things that I want. Instead of the distress, we're replacing it with that. It also is endorphins that are released. So we want to be conscious of how we channel that yucky feeling into chemistry that feels good to us, but in ways that are just about coping and ultimately not so great, because we don't want to be spending tons of money or drinking all the time or doing drugs all the time. So The idea there is to be conscious of, am I using sort of substances? Oh, I forgot the most common one, food. Am I going over to food to feel good and get that super release of the chemistry that makes me feel good, right? From food. So which one am I doing there? And then there is also one that I'm calling productive busying. Now, productive busying is justifying to yourself that you have to go and do X, Y, and Z, right? You must go and do that now. So feeling situation creates a feeling of distress. I don't like the feeling. You know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to distract myself constantly by doing things that feel productive so I can justify it. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be productive. I am saying that when we are using it as a way to sort of avoid feeling, that's when we are sabotaging ourselves, right? Because we get caught in that. And so many of us do all of these things, right? But what you'll probably find is you go to one first over another one. You may do all four at times, but really be conscious to start with which one is sort of my first go-to, right? When I'm feeling distress. Sometimes it is hard to identify this. We have to slow ourselves down to be able to kind of notice, because we're so good at channeling it into these. It's so fast. It's like at lightning speed because the distress felt threatening to us, right? However, it does lead to sabotage. As you can see, how far am I going to get in life if I keep self-criticizing? Where am I going to go if I keep blaming everybody else for everything? Right? What's life going to look like if I'm always using substances or food or shopping or something else to distract myself from the pain? And also productive busying. Again, this one can fool us. It's great to be productive. It's just that we are using it in an unhealthy way. So this is where we want to slow ourselves down and reflect. Wow, am I doing these? When do I do that? Be fascinated by it, right? I don't want you to get self-critical, ironically, about it. I want you to really be self-compassionate and curious and like truly fascinated by the reality that you're probably doing one or a mixture of these. Now, of course, there are other things, just overall avoidance, period, but what you'll find if you're just overall avoiding, you've probably distracted with something. And so it'll come back to one of the busying types of constructs here. Or, it is diving fully into it and not knowing how to comfort and soothe yourself. So that then you get flooded and overwhelmed, and sometimes people around us can't handle that. So we want to be conscious of, am I completely avoiding or am I flooding as well? So from there, I want to sort of talk about first, so we're identifying that. And then the next level of this is looking at, the reality of what do I do in order to feel okay then, right? So here I am, I've got this distress situation. Let's keep it really simple. Let's go with, I've used this before, a example of road rage. So I'm driving along, somebody cuts me off really dangerously. I'm suddenly in a state of distress because my life was put in danger, and I'm completely dysregulated. I'm really feeling that heightened state of distress. I don't like the feeling. Typically for that, we go to blame. What a jerk, what an idiot, what's wrong with them? And we start to really blame and get infuriated, right? So we take that energy and we channel it into blaming. And I'm not saying that the guy was, or the girl was, the person was right. What I'm saying is they've taken off already, and we are left with this sensation. And now I need to do something with that sensation because I don't like it. And rather than do, which what I'll teach you, the healthy way, we switch to blaming. Some of us could also be self-critical. How did I not see that person? What's wrong with me? I'm a terrible driver. I shouldn't be on the road. And we start to really take that distress and make it ironically more distressing. But because we're chattering about it, it's a way to take it out of the body and into our mind. And it's sadly a way of coping as well. Obviously not helpful, however, it is something that's very common. The other way is you somehow make your way home and then you're like, oh my gosh, I really need a drink, right? Or I'm going to go eat cookies or something, right? And we channel that distress into the substance section. Or again, we come home, I can't deal with this, it's ridiculous. Okay, you know what? Let me just go. I got so many things I have to get done, like these videos. I gotta go home and do my videos. This sort of thing starts to come across our mind in order to, again, get away from that yuck factor. So what do we do instead? Right? And this is something that I have practiced, right? I was a road rage blamer for sure. And again, I'm not saying that we don't hold them accountable. The issue is more, they're gone, I'm left with the distress. I can continue to stay distressed through blaming because it's just channeling the distress, it's not removing it. Or I can choose to do this. So yes, finally I'm getting to what we can do. Sorry it's taken so long. It's truly comforting and soothing. It's slowing our body down. Our brain perceives our body as tight and in threat. It doesn't know yet that we are actually safe. So they're gone, no one got hurt, we're safe. So we want to show that part of our brain that we are safe. So we first start with just sort of, if you're on the road, you can pull over and just start to slow down and breathe. A nice slow breath, 4-second inhale, hold for 7 seconds, and 8-second exhale. You can do that 2-3 times. If you are driving, please do pull over because that is important because you're going to start to relax. You could also just do a 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale. And when I say inhales, I always say through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. And the idea here is to start to regulate the system. Drop your shoulders and start to show the brain that your body, which is the first place that it looks for a threat, that the body is calming, the body is relaxing, and then you can start to have more self-compassionate talk. That was really hard. That was very scary, and I'm safe right now. All is well. We're okay. So again, we're bringing safety back in from our body first through relaxing the system, then to our mind, right? Where safety is being through self-compassion and a kinder self-talk and a recognition that we're safe. We can start to calm the mind as well. And then we can move on, right? So the idea there is to recognize that distressing feelings really do bring on that yuck factor. We likely weren't taught how to soothe and comfort that. If you were, fantastic, and if you weren't, then recognize that you probably learned one of those strategies, or if you have others, please let me know in the comments below. And how do we sabotage ourselves, right? Recognizing when we go into one of those modes, we are sabotaging ourselves because ultimately we're always back to square one. Next time there's a distress, I'm going to be doing that again, and I have to do this again. Once we start to learn to soothe and comfort our distress, we can quickly reduce it. So over the years, I've been practicing this consistently, and now when I get distressed, I still notice it. It's not that I don't get distressed, but I can very quickly bring myself back to a state of calm and coherence, right? So that would be the practice. Everything's a practice. Even the coping strategies that you are using right now have been a practice. You've been practicing them for years probably. So we just need to replace that practice with awareness, compassion with this new practice, right? Body calming, then thoughts, self-compassion, and safety to then re-enter life where we were. If I was going somewhere, then get back in the car and go to where you need to go, and you'll be in a better place, right? Just to keep to that example. So think about how you can apply this to your life, and I'm going to do a part 2 of this so that you can just see in general my reverse engineered concept of confidence and how to become confident people, and how when we learn to soothe and calm, we can apply it to the model that I'll be sharing with you in the next video. Thank you.